I'm Crystal McKenzie on Madison 1670 WTDY, and now back to Sly in the morning.
What are you laughing at in there?
I don't know. I just get tickled because I say that every day at the same time every day, and I feel like a broken record.
No. Joining us now, Kent Carnell from Lawton and Cates. Kent, what's your phone number over there at Lawton and Cates?
It's 282-6200.
All right. Now, listen to us very carefully this morning. You're going to need to call your insurance agent and check, not once but twice, that your auto insurance reflects the changes. Governor Walker has signed legislation that rolls back auto insurance requirements that were changed in 2009. What changed, Kent?
Well, there's a number of things changed. Maybe I should first say these changes actually go into effect November 1st
right,
for any renewal or new policies.
But you should probably get your policy updated before that.
It's always a good idea to make sure you have appropriate coverage. Most coverage is very cheap. In the long run, Wisconsin has some of the lowest insurance rates in the country.
Depending on the survey, we're in the top 10.
Correct.
Or we're in the bottom 10, I guess would be the way to put it.
Yeah, the top 10 in terms of cheapest. And
right.
Actually, insurance rates went down in 2011 compared to 2010 compared to 2009.
All right. Explain what happened in 2009 and what the governor and the Republican legislature undid.
Well, the basic thing was they changed the minimum rate, so there was more. The minimum rate went from $25,000 for one person to $50,000, and they required everybody to carry auto insurance. Wisconsin was one of the few states that did not require auto insurance at the time. They also increased some levels for underinsured motorist and uninsured motorist coverage.
All right. So when we start here, drivers must obtain liability coverage of $50,000 per person and $100,000 for more than one person and $15,000 for property damage. Explain what those different numbers mean.
The first number, $50,000, means for any one person that is injured in an accident, they can recover up to $50,000 from that insurance company. The $100,000 is for multiple persons. There's a total of $100,000 coverage. So for the second person or the third person, you have coverage up to that amount.
You can spend $50,000 at a hospital very quickly.
Well, that's the problem. Hospital and medical rates have gone up so much. $25,000 coverage if you're in a bad auto accident doesn't cover very much. Your medical bills can be much more than that.
So what happens when you don't when they lower these levels and you don't have that much protection? Can the person that you hit take you to court for the rest of the damages?
Well, yes. For the individual, the driver of a car that causes an accident, if they only have $25,000 in coverage for a person and the damages are more than that, they can be personally liable for that amount of money.
Except most people just don't have it, do they?
That's the main problem. Most people that carry minimum coverage don't have the assets to go after. Then the injured person gets the low level of recovery. They either have to pay the medical bills or for their injury, their lost wages, or society pays because there just isn't enough money to pay all the costs.
Okay. Why did insurance companies get so angry about this?
You know, that's something I don't understand. The requirement that everybody carry insurance and there be higher rates, in theory, would make the premium somewhat higher for those rates, and you're bringing in to the force those people that didn't have insurance before.
Kent Carnell with us with Lawton and Cates. It's Lawton, Lawton, Cates, Cates.com, right?
That's correct.
LawtonCates.com. All right. Uninsured motorist coverage.
Uninsured motorist coverage is if a driver hits you that does not have insurance, you then have coverage on your own car to pay for your injuries caused by that uninsured driver.
And there are people that still don't have insurance, even
though it's required,
right.
There will still be people that don't carry insurance.
Well, there's people driving around without licenses. There's people
without licenses. Often those have been convicted of drunk driving don't have insurance.
All right. So underinsured motorist coverage. The new law, drivers are not required to carry underinsured motorist coverage, but if they do, they must obtain coverage of at least $50,000 per person and $100,000 per accident.
Sure, and that the old rates were they had to have 100,000 and 300,000 per accident. And maybe I should explain, underinsured is when, let's assume the other driver that hits you is at fault has 25,000 in coverage, and your damages are 50,000. That you then have that extra 25,000 coverage, so you are fully compensated for your injury.
All right. Chances are your insurance agent's going to suggest you keep your levels as they are, right?
I would think so, and both uninsured motorist coverage and underinsured coverage are both very cheap, $2-3 every quarter.
What do you suggest people have?
I would suggest really the maximum they can. I would certainly, for almost everybody, have 100,000 in liability, 100,000 in underinsurance, 100,000 in uninsured, just to cover you. If you can have more than that.
So this is if you get injured in your own car, somebody that's underinsured hits you, that you have that your insurance company pays your medical bills.
Correct.
Okay. So this is really important to make sure that you have the max.
I believe it's one of the most important things you can do, and it's cheap coverage.
All right. Same with uninsured motorist coverage.
Correct.
Current law, drivers must obtain uninsured coverage of $100,000 per person and $300,000 per accident, and $10,000 for medical payments. Now, under the new law, drivers must obtain uninsured motorist coverage at least $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident. Coverage for medical payments is optional, but must cover at least $1,000.
And that is not very much at all. The other thing to understand about the medical payments coverage in insurance policies is no fault. So if you cause the accident, you hit a tree, you can still get medical coverage for your injuries.
All right. Here's one I've never seen. Reducing clauses. What does that mean? That sounds like a lawyer's term.
Definitely a lawyer's term, but let's try to simplify it. Under the old law, insurance companies could not put in reducing clauses. Now they're able to. The simplest way to understand it is if the defendant had $25,000 in insurance coverage, you had $25,000 in underinsured motorist coverage. Mm-hmm. With a reducing clause, they say your underinsured coverage is reduced by what you've already received. You received $25,000 from the at-fault driver. Your $25,000 policy is now reduced to zero, so even though you thought you had coverage, you had no coverage.
The new law allows reducing clauses. That sounds like something that an insurance company might like.
They would like that because it reduces the amount of money they may ultimately have to pay out, yes.
Is this is because Wisconsin's open for business. Is that correct?
That has to be my assumption because I know no good reason for consumers that you would want something like this.
And then we have stacking law. It's anti-stacking law, right?
Right. Stacking means if you have two cars in your household and you're injured, for the uninsured or underinsured, you can take both the coverages of both your cars, add it up. So if you have a very bad injury, you could add up the 50 plus 50.
Why not? You're paying the premiums, right?
You've paid the premiums on both cars.
But now?
Under the new law, you can't stack. So you only get it from one car.
Well, it appears as though the insurance companies got virtually everything they asked for here.
I assume that's something they asked for because they lobbied for it in the legislature.
It's really hard for Scott Walker to say that Wisconsin is not competitive with the auto insurance rates because, in fact, Wisconsin, as we started out by saying, is 4th or 10th cheapest, depending on the survey.
Yes, that's what I read, and those are most recent surveys.
All right. Well, if you're in an accident and you get a call from the insurance company asking you to settle, you probably should think twice about that, right?
You should. The insurance companies always want you to settle quickly because they know you'll settle for less than the case is worth. You need to wait. A good thing to do is talk to a lawyer. Normally you can talk to a lawyer. It will not cost you anything to get some initial advice, and they can tell you whether you actually need a lawyer or don't need a lawyer.
And your phone number at Lawton and Cates?
282-6200.
All right. Kent, thanks for coming out.
You're welcome.
Kent Carnell from Lawton and Cates. It's just another day in Fitzwalker, Stan.
Slide.